Over the years, Disney has tried to convince us that everything is okay behind the scenes and that while they've stumbled a few times, they have some big plans to focus on quality over quantity and really get back to what made things like the MCU and Star Wars fantastic in the first place. And of course, the lie detector has determined that that's been a lie, but now we're hearing that they're focusing on more grounded, less expensive TV shows and that Marvel is straight up broke and they cannot afford Hulk movies and they cannot afford the big CGI films anymore. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube memberships. Now, we all knew that Disney was kind of struggling given their past year to year and a half when it comes to financials. I mean, last year, they lost over $1 billion at the box office, and it was the first time since 2014 that they, failed to crack $1 billion at the box office. But not only that, they had released several massive failures, and it seems like all of those failures are finally catching up with them. I have two Cosmic Book News articles to reference. The first one says Marvel's focusing on grounded, less expensive TV shows, and that Marvel is straight up broke. My Marvel insiders continue to be right on the money, as they previously told me Marvel was broke, which is why interns did all of the posters for the Marvels movies, and explains why the posters look so bad. There was a lot of speculation surrounding the Marvels posters. And honestly, a lot of the marketing material in general, like the teasers and trailers, just seemed to be sloppily edited together. Yes, the trailers looked mediocre. People even questioned if the posters were made in part with AI. But now, funny enough, it's learned from Mark Ruffalo that Marvel can't do a standalone Hulk movie because it would be too expensive. This was always the speculation, is that this movie would be so insanely expensive. But at the same time, we have had movies over the past couple of years that have definitely cost a pretty penny. So I mean, I think a lot of people were thinking maybe now they could revisit that plan, but at the same time, they've kind of really phased out the actors from the beginning of the MCU. Mark Ruffalo really is kind of one of the only ones left at this point, and I don't really know if they want to bank on him. It says that's hilarious to think about because Disney coughed up $300 million for the Marvels, possibly close to $400 million for Indiana Jones 5, and $200 million for both Secret Invasion and She-Hulk on Disney Plus. That's $1.1 billion spent on only 4 projects, all of which failed. I mean, this is a major issue for them, is they are shoving out billions of dollars just for content that failed. But it's really no surprise to see why when you look at the projects they're greenlighting. Nobody asked for the Marvels, okay? Initially, people thought that Captain Marvel 2 was going to be a meme simply because Brie Larson was such a hated actress in Hollywood and of course in the MCU, and then they decided that they were going to go ahead with a Captain Marvel sequel. It ended up being The Marvels because they couldn't just bank on Brie Larson, and even with these 3 lead actresses it still failed. Indiana Jones 5 just was not the direction people wanted them to go in, and it was especially disappointing when we knew that it was going to be Harrison Ford's last time playing this iconic character. And then, of course, Secret Invasion and She-Hulk both highlighted female power. I mean, with Secret Invasion, while some of the show was good, like the cast was fantastic, they ultimately decided to introduce another female character who was supposed to be the strongest in the MCU, Gia, who was played by Emilia Clarke. And then, of course, we had She-Hulk, who didn't actually need Hulk, who knew how to do everything perfectly within the first 5 minutes of figuring out what she could do, and she didn't even really need Hulk. But maybe if from the beginning they had went with something like a standalone Hulk movie and they didn't try to absolutely embarrass him and denigrate the Hulk in order to prop up She-Hulk, maybe things would have went a little bit better for them. But this is not the only information we're hearing, because we're also hearing from multiple scoopers that Marvel is pulling back and doing a more grounded approach to its TV shows, and this goes hand in hand with the other rumor, because what grounded really means is less expensive, and that's why Hollywood loves to put out grounded cop shows, because they are super cheap to make and people also eat them up. I mean, yes, I love some good CGI, I love these effects, but at the same time, your storytelling has to be great, the writing has to be fantastic, and of course you have to have a cast of actors who actually know how to act. And if you make more grounded cop shows, yes, they are bound to be cheaper, but also you have to have perfect acting and you have to have really good storytelling, because you can't lean so heavily on visual effects. And when it comes to CGI, that really is what Marvel and Disney as a company have been leaning on over the past couple of years. And yes, everybody loves a nice and shiny movie, lots of explosions, lots of effects, but at the same time, they are looking for ways to continue to put out content, but at a much cheaper level. And yes, more grounded things like cop shows certainly are. If you do something like Daredevil, yeah, you're going to inevitably have some CGI. Of course, you're going to have to pay for the cool looking costumes and good sets, but you're not paying for, Captain Marvel or the Marvels level CGI. And of course, they have been losing a boatload of money. Disney Plus subscribers drop 1.3 million amid price hike. Streaming loss shrinks by 300 million. Disney fails to crack $1 billion at last year's box office, first time since 2014. They have been seeing many failures, but I don't think that even if they decided to go for the more grounded cop shows, or they even did a Hulk movie, that at this point they could really save the MCU. And the future of the MCU is looking very grim, simply because not only are people disappointed with the movies and TV shows they've decided to greenlit, but also the quality. I know Bob Iger has said that they are going to focus on quality over quantity, and while they might be able to do that, their description of quality is not what we would deem quality. We deem the Iron Man 1 in 2 days as quality, but they deem the She-Hulks as quality, because of course those shows, they are able to push the message with. These people are activists and they simply want to create content and greenlight content where they can actually push their certain political positions into. They can actually push the narratives that they want to push into these pieces of content, and people are sick and tired of the bullshit. People are finally starting to see through what they're doing, which is taking, in some cases, fan favorite characters and picking the most insufferable activist writers and creatives and then other actors to go along with them, and then those new actors and the new characters overshadow the established ones. Look at something like the Obi-Wan series. Reva, of course, was one of the big highlights, and then you had Obi-Wan, who ended up kind of being embarrassed and ridiculed, and of course it ended up also being the Leia show. That is a perfect example of what Disney deems quality, what Bob Iger deems quality, that we as fans do not deem as quality. And it really looks like right now they are in panic mode. They are out of money and the losses are finally catching up with them. It will be interesting to see if any other actors or sources come out and say, this isn't true, Disney's doing great right now, everything's going according to plan. But clearly, judging by all of these scoops, that Marvel's focusing on grounded, less expensive TV shows, and that Marvel is broke and can't even afford a Hulk movie, this to me screams that the losses are catching up with them and they are freaking out. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.